Developing Power BI reports can take a lot of time. You have to set up the data model, create the measures, the visualizations, make sure that the design and UX is amazing. Then of course the report needs to be optimized. Oh, and not even speaking about what needs to happen in Power Query. Now of course at some point you're going to feel completely overwhelmed. But what if I tell you that you can work much faster? I'm going to show you 3 hacks that save me personally many hours every single week. Let's dive in. Hack number 1. Collect and store all useful DAX measures and M functions in a central location so that you can easily reuse them for future reports. Now you might say, yeah, but every report is unique. How is that going to help me? Well, that's true. Every report is unique. However, there are also many elements that repeat itself for every report. Think about highlighting the maximum and minimum point in a visual, or highlighting the top 3 items. Now, all of these kind of DAX measures you want to turn into templates that you can reuse so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and that can save you a lot of time. Now the question is how? Now let's look at an example. Over here I have a column chart where we highlight the maximum and minimum using a DAX measure for conditional formatting. Now that DAX measure I could use as a template for next time. So let's go to the DAX measure. Let's open it up. Now this DAX measure we can then copy over to a text file, to which we then also going to add other DAX measures that we want to reuse as templates for other reports. And then that text file we can save in a central location. Now for the next report where we would then need that measure, we would have to look for that file, open it up, copy it over and adjust it to the data model that we have in that report. Now that works at the beginning, but over time, the more measures that get added to that document, well, the messier it's going to be. And therefore, it's going to get more and more difficult to get the DAX measure template that you really need. Now, that is one downside of going for this approach. Also, you have to look for that file every single time. And if you're not very well organized, well, then suddenly you start to have also copies of that file, so different versions. And what if you want to collaborate with other people that might want to add their measure templates to your file? Well, then it's going to get very messy. So, is there a better solution? Yes, there is. I would recommend something like GitHub. Now, if you have never used GitHub before, let me show you. It's really easy to get started with it. So let's go to github.com. Now, the first thing that you need to do is set up your account. So this you can do here in the top right corner. You have sign up. Let's click on it. And then you just have to follow all of the sign up process steps. So enter your email, then you have to confirm, etc. And then you can log in. Now, when you log in, you get to the welcome screen. And the first thing that you need to do when this is the first time is set up a repository. Now, a repository is just the place where you have all of the project files with vision history and collaborator discussion. All right, now we can give it a name. So over here, I'm going to call this one How to Power BI. And we can choose. This is going to be a public one or a private one. Do you want everybody to be able to see that repository and whatever you're going to save in it? Or should it just be for you and the people that you share it with? All right, now I want to have it private. All right, so I'm going to click here on create a new repository. And now we are ready to start adding files with our DAX measures and M functions to this repository. Now, let's go back to that welcome screen. You see now here on the left-hand side, we have a new repository, How to Power BI. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to click on it. And now we can create a new file by clicking here on create a new file. Now let's give it a name. Now this is for conditional formatting. So I'm going to start with CF and then highlight. And then we have max min. Okay, now here we can copy over the DAX measure from the Power BI file. So I'm going to go back to Power BI. Let's copy it. And then let's go back and paste it in there. Now you can leave the measure like this, or instead of having here total sales, you could also write something like base measure so that you make it more generic. But for me, it's actually fine as it is. Now, let's now just put in still the extension MD. All right, and then commit the changes. So this is going to save it. And that's kind of it. We can just keep on going like this, right? So I can go back. Then, for example, take here the above average calculation. So this one is also for conditional formatting. Let's copy it over. I'm going to create again a new file. So here in the top right corner, create a new file, paste it in there. And then we have again conditional formatting, highlight above average. Okay, And also here we can click on commit changes. So now we have a central place that's going to have all of these files with our DAX templates that we can reuse for future reports. So next time when we need it, we just log in to GitHub, go to this repository, look for the template that we need, click on it to open it up. And now it just shows the text. Let's click here on code, and then we have the formatted code. Copy it over, adjust it to the data model of that new report, and that's it. But what if you don't want to log into GitHub online every single time, but just want to have it on your desktop? Well, there's also GitHub Desktop, which you can install if you go here to the repository up to Power BI, then click here on code, and then here you see open with GitHub Desktop. Now, of course, this only works if GitHub Desktop is installed, which is sometimes a problem if you work on your company's laptop that they don't allow you. But if they do allow you, I would recommend set it up. All right. Now, if you click on it, it brings you over here to the desktop version. So you see over here the GitHub address and here the local path on your laptop. And then you can click on clone so that you have them always in sync. Another good idea as an editor for these files is to install Visual Studio Code, which you can nicely link over here with GitHub Desktop. So then you can say open in Visual Studio Code. Then it opens up, and then here on the left-hand side, you see our two measure templates, above average, conditional formatting, and max min. All right, and then you can open it up, make changes, or add new templates to this repository, and then make sure that it syncs again with GitHub Online. Well, the best thing of all of this is that you're not the only one that's going to do this. There are also many other people that are already doing this and have public repositories, and you can just take their code and use it for your Power BI reports. So if you simply go to Google, and let's say now I'm interested in custom M functions, then I type in custom M functions library. And here you see already two, so let me just open the first two that I find. Now the first one that I open up is from Imke Feldman, and the other one is from Stefan Ressel. All right, now here both of them have a lot of different M functions that they wrote, that they shared with the public. So let's have a look. And over here, this one looks quite interesting. Calculates a trend according to Excel's trend function, but without the option to define your own slope and intercept. So over here, you click on that function, and you see there it is. And now you can just simply copy it over and use it in your Power BI file if you need it. Hack number 2 is to create design assets. For example, background templates, themes, and general templates that you can leverage for future reports. Now, let me give you some examples. Let's say you have a new report and you start creating some new visualizations. Then there are probably some formatting changes that you make every single time and that need to be applied to every single visual. That takes a lot of time. Now, instead of that, you can work with themes, but not just the standard themes, you can completely customize them. Now, how? First of all, you have the option to go here to the top, view. Now over here we have an overview of all the different default themes, and if we want to customize one, well, I would usually just pick one that's kind of close to what I want to have. Now, let's say this one over here, and then we can click on the drop down again and say customize current theme. Now, here you have the theme name. Let's go for our own example theme. So say example bus 1. And then here we can start changing the colors that we want to have. Let's say I want to have over here dark blue instead. Then for the text, there I don't want to have Segui, but I want to have Segui semi-bold, let's say. And then for the visuals, let's say the background color, I want to have light gray. And then I click here on apply. All right. Now you see, those changes get applied straight away, and here we have now a new custom theme. If I want to save it, then I just click here on Save Current Theme. I see that the extension is a JSON file, which is just a structured text file, which is quite easy to edit, as you will see in a second. Now, I'm going to click here on Save. Now, if you have Visual Studio Code, then it's relatively easy to format that text. You just right-click and then say Format Document, and then you see, this is a little bit easier to read than what you have at the beginning when you export it. Okay, now you see all different kinds of attributes that we have for that theme. For example, the name at the top, the main colors, foreground, background, the accent colors, the maximum, the center, the minimum, bad, neutral, good. And then following after that, also for the visual styles, we see that the background color is always that gray that I chose before. Now, all of this we can customize and we can add new parts to that theme. Now, let me show you how that works and how you can figure out what you can type in here. All right, now let's go to the documentation first. Now, how do you get there? Well, just go back to View Themes and then here how to create a theme, and then it opens up your browser on the theme creation page. Now over here, the beginning is not that interesting. Just scroll down, 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 down until you get to the custom theme part. And there you go, report theme JSON file format. Okay, now there are basically 4 parts. It says theme colors, structural colors, text classes, visual styles. And then from here, we can just take this as a starting point. So I copy that, go back to my text editor, and then replace this with what it says in the documentation. So this is going to be my theme, bus theme. Okay, now I leave this as it is. Of course, in reality, I would customize it. Now let's scroll further down to the visual elements part. So that's more down, this over here. And here you see we have lines that talk about the grid line style, also how the filter card should look like, and over here specifically how a scatter chart should look like. So here you see visual styles, asterisk, that means this applies to all the visuals. And here this is more specific just for the scatter chart. Okay, so let's copy this over as well. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add it to my theme. I have to make sure that it's in between those brackets. So let's just add some space over here, paste this in there. Now, of course, this name part custom theme we already have there. It's just now about the visual styles. And here at the end, there we need a comma, so that continues. All right, then just make sure that the brackets match, right? So this starts and ends there. Okay, this one we don't need. Okay, and with a shift tab, you can pull it to the left. With tab, you can indent it further. Okay, now, how can we now build further on what is over here? Now, this is just an example, right? So instead of dotted, well, we probably also have something like solid. And here, instead of a scatter chart, well, probably there's also a bar chart, column chart, line chart that we can add as well, for which we can figure out the elements that we can format with this custom theme. Okay, so let's give this a try. I'm just going to copy this scatter chart part. Okay, and I'm just going to paste it right above it. Place a comment there at the end. All right, and instead of scatter chart, I'm going to try line chart. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. And then I just start typing line chart. Okay, now a line chart doesn't have bubbles, so I guess this is not going to work. But how can I then see what elements there are that we can adjust? So over here, I'm on the GitHub from Microsoft, and here we have different report theme schemas. Now, here you just have to look for the latest one or the one that corresponds to the Power BI version that you're working with. Now, here, for me, that is the December 23 version. So let's click on that one. Let's open it up in a new tab. Now, these theme schemas can be used to figure out what elements can we adjust and what are the options. Now, to do that, we have to scroll down a little bit further. Now, over here, it explains how you can do that. So let's go down, down, down. We just have to reference it here below the name. So we say schema and then the name. Now, here, if you do it like this, you need to have it downloaded. If you just want to reference the raw file, so the raw file is when you click on the schema that you want to have. So that is this one over here. And then you click here on raw. Okay, then it gives you the link, right? So copy that, go back over here to our theme. And then here after the name, there we want to have the schema. Now they wrote it like this. So we have a $ schema, you see, and then in between quotation marks, there we put the link to that raw file that contains the schema. All right, now don't forget comma there at the end. Good, now how does that help us? Well, that helps us when we write a code, right? So over here, if you do control space, it gives you all of the possible options, right? So here you see Azure Map, bar chart. What can we write there? What are valid options? Now here we want to have a line chart, and you see this IntelliSense is there, which otherwise would not be there. Now, what else can we do? Well, over here, these elements. A line chart doesn't have bubbles probably, but has different elements. So here I can actually delete this part, right? Do just control space and see what is it that I can adjust. Now, for example, I want to have something like padding. You see, padding pops up, press tab, and it already fills it out just like this. Now, and then again, I can do control space. I need curly brackets. Again, control space. Now we have padding, bottom, left, right, top. So let's start with the bottom, 0. And then the next part. So over here, probably we have to go to the next line. So I put a comma there, go to the next line, control space. And again, the same thing, control space, and left. So we just repeat this a few times. So let me just do this also for bottom and top. Okay, so after you've done that, then just choose how many pixels you want. So I always put it to 20, so over here 2020, okay, good. And I also want to have borders with a little bit of rounding. So I continue, so over here again, control space, and look for the border element, okay, control space. What do we have? We have the color and the radius. Now, the color I probably want to have white, but let's focus on the radius. Now over here, the radius we can put to 20. At the moment, we just have the padding and the border radius for the line chart. And it will work for the line chart, but not for a column chart or any other type of charts. So if you want that, we can just copy this over there to the top part, right? So over here, let's copy this. And then I go there before that yellow closing bracket, comma, let's create a bit of extra space, paste it in there. Okay, and that's it. So do I still need this part for the line chart? No, not really, but I just leave it in for now and save the theme. Now, I call it bus example 1. Okay, save that, Control S. Then I go back to Power BI, and over here we can now import that theme. So I browse for themes, there it is. And you see, we do have padding, but we don't have the rounding. Why is the rounding not there? Well, that is because the border is not turned on probably. So here I would still need to go to formatting. You see here we have size and style, and the visual border is not turned on. If I turn it on, you see, now the rounding is there. So I would still need to adjust it a little bit further. So building a custom theme is a lot of trial and error. Now, if you want to figure out now what changes can I make to border, now don't do it from here, but do it from here from the line chart, because here it doesn't give me all of the options. It just gives me too much because it can be for any visual, right? So therefore I go back over here under the line chart, and then over here it was for the border. So after the curly brackets, control space, we have show, and that one, oh, let me undo this, let me push that to the right. We have control space, show, that needs to be true. Now let's then also add color, so control space, color, okay. And then the curly brackets again, and then let's see what we have. Solid, and then we have the option color, and then we have to say which color. So let's put that in between square brackets, and this needs to be white. So F, so 6 Fs. And you see there's this squiggly line below it. That means I didn't write it correctly. There needs to be hashtag in front of it. Okay, now you see this IntelliSense is very crucial. If you cannot figure it out still with the IntelliSense, either look here, or another alternative is the GitHub from Matt Rudy. He has also some good stuff if you scroll down. Per chart, what you can change. So for example, line chart, you can open it up. And you see also all of the different elements. All right, now let's go back. I just want to make sure that I have this also for all of the visuals. So I'm just going to replace that here as well. Okay, and again, save it, go back to your Power BI file. If your theme changed in the meantime, then you still need to import it again, right? So over here, go again to browse for themes and import your theme. Got it? Okay, perfect. And you see now we have the rounded corners in white, we have the padding, all different kinds of changes that I would do anyways, but now I have the theme for that. But this investment is well worth it for all of the future reports that you're going to create, because then you don't have to redo it every single time. Have good themes, but also have good background templates that you can easily adjust for the design to make something look good. Now, let's go to an example. Now over here I have a report that I built in the last video, which looks kind of okay at this point, but it's nothing compared to the version with a good background. Now, let's have a look at the difference. And you see the difference is huge, but creating these backgrounds that look good can be quite time consuming. So what can be helpful is if you just have a few templates that you can easily adjust for the report that you're working on. Let's say you get a new page, right? Then, well, the background needs to look a little bit different, right? So, for example, if I go to one of the other pages, and here you see a slight variation of the background to accommodate the visuals for this page. And let me show you another page. And again, same background style, but adjusted to the visuals. Now, these themes you can create in PowerPoint, but you can also use Adobe Illustrator or Figma, whatever you prefer. Doesn't really matter, whatever your preference is. But what is important is that you store these assets somewhere, these good background generator files, so that you can easily get to them and make adjustments if necessary. So here I just have a few variations of the placeholders for the visuals. So let's say I go over here and I need suddenly an extra placeholder right next to this one, right? So then we can just easily, make a duplicate of that rectangle and start playing around with these placeholders and then generate a new SVG, use that for the background. But you see, that saves me a lot of time and effort starting from scratch and then thinking of a good design, because coming up with a good design can be quite time consuming and difficult. So in short, build some design assets that you can leverage for future reports. That is a huge time saver as well. And that brings us to hack number 3, which is using external add-ons, which can help you with building and optimizing your data model or creating your measures. Now, there are a lot of them out there. Let's have a look at 2. Now, the first one that I want to highlight is Bravo from SQL BI. Looks amazing, and it can help you with analyzing your model, so which columns take the most space and which ones are used and which ones aren't, formatting your DAX, managing dates, date tables and date and time calculations, and exporting your data. So all things that you do regularly when you work in Power BI. Now let's see it in action. Now after you have installed an external add-on, you will always find them here on the external tools. They are alphabetically sorted, so Bravo is here on the left. So let's click on it. Over here, it gives you some summary information about your data model, which columns are taking the most space and are they being used or not. So maybe you can get rid of them to decrease the size of your data model and optimize it. Now, here, for example, everything that is in yellow, those are unreferenced columns, but take a lot of space, so you might want to consider taking them out of your model. And then here on the left-hand side, we have an easy way to format our DAX measures. Now here I just have total sales, so there's not much to format. Now then, if you want to add a date table to your model and you don't have one just yet, well, building a date model can take quite a bit of time. Now here you can choose the template that you want to have for your date table, and then we have all different kinds of parameters that we can play with, have first year, last year, also here the regional format, etc. Now, also important is time intelligence. So here you can say I want to have for all measures time intelligence, meaning a year to date, year over year, these kind of things. And if you have everything set up, you just click on Preview Changes. And then here we have Time Intelligence, and you see here for FST Sales, we have only the total sales measure. We have Time Intelligence, then Growth, then the measure names or measures names. And then here we have all of these different variations with very common time intelligence calculations. Now to write these measures yourself, well, if you have done it, you know how much time it can take. It can easily take your day, but with an external tool like this, it just takes a few seconds. Now, once you're happy, you just click on Apply Changes, and it goes back to your Power BI file. So let's click on it. So you see over here is my FST sales table. We have there the folder, time intelligence, and here we see all of these measures. Let me just make this a little bit wider. Now same for the date table. If I go here to the table view, over here you see there's a template and the date table that we can reference later on. All right, perfect. Now let's look at another external tool which ties back to hack number 1, which was to collect, store, and reuse your own code. But you can also reuse other people's code, right? With, for example, their GitHub, and then either take it from there or you use an external tool like this one over here from Greg Deckler. So to get it, you just have to type in Microsoft hates Greg's quick measures, all right? And it brings you to his GitHub from where you can download it. So over here, just download the zip and then run the installer, all right? So that's it. Once you have done that, you will find it here under external tools as well. So let's click on it and let's see what we can do. So over here, you see it is kind of like quick measures. We have all of these different categories. So here also data intelligence that it can help you with. But let's scroll a little bit further. Let's say you're exploring SVG and you need a few templates. Now, over here, there's SVG category. And let's say we want to have SVG hearts. All right, sounds good. And then we have to choose measure or column. Now, base value aggregation. Now, let's say we wanted to have the sum, column, and then we go here for total sales. Let's click here on OK. I want to have the DAX. Boom, there you have it. Nice. Okay, and then we can just say create. That was successfully created. Now let's see. I'm going to close over here the window, and now the measure popped up over here, my sales table, total sales SVG hard column. Let's select it. And you see it nicely gives me the SVG code and actually already filled in the base measure or column that you picked before. All right. Now, there's much more that you can do and many more external tools that are also really good that can save you tons of time. So these are my 3 hacks so that you can save a lot of time every single day so that you can go for an extra coffee and don't have to stress about all of that Power BI development work that is waiting for you. Now, let me know your hacks in the comment section below. And if you want to know all of my tips and tricks and build reports together with me, then check out my upcoming design transformation program over here. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.